Ever get that feeling like, man, the world could really use a good dose of, actual wisdom?
Totally. And maybe, like, a solid plan to go along with it.
Right. Well, that's what have me so fascinated by this whole wisdom's difference makers thing.
Yeah, they've definitely caught our attention.
It's like they're on this mission to empower regular people, like you and me.
To create actual positive change.
Exactly. And the coolest part, you don't have to be some kind of superhero or CEO or anything,
They really emphasize that anyone can make a difference.
which is super refreshing to hear, honestly. And we've got this awesome stack of materials to dig into for this deep dive.
LinkedIn articles, profiles, they even gave us a sneak peek at their manifesto.
It really is like piecing together a puzzle.
Each source is like a clue to how they're trying to make this whole thing work.
Okay, so they've got this big vision empowering change makers in literally every city on the planet. But there's got to be some method to the madness, right?
Well, that's what I find so interesting. They're not just about big talk. They have real experience backing them up.
Yeah.
In the manifesto, they mentioned the founders have over 150 years combined in life and business coaching.
Wow, 150 years. That's a lot of wisdom.
Right. This isn't some fly-by-night idea. It's rooted in years of working with people, understanding how change actually happens.
Okay, so they've got the experience. But how do they break down this massive goal of global change into something manageable?
Their approach is actually pretty clever. They call it the waltz.
A waltz. All right, now you've got to break this one down for me.
Think about it. They're not trying to dictate a rigid program.
More like a framework.
Exactly. 1, 2, 3, just like a waltz. 1. You need a clear vision of the world you want to create, a world where people feel empowered to act. 2, a focused mission, providing the knowledge and support to make that vision a reality. And 3, a philosophy of individual empowerment, teaching people to think critically, find their own paths to making a difference.
I'm really liking this waltz analogy. It's not just about individual action, it's finding a rhythm, a shared movement for change.
Definitely. And they've made it surprisingly easy to get involved, too. They've laid out what they call a playbook.
Hold on, is an actual playbook? Like, are we talking about a physical book here, or is playbook more of a metaphor?
Well, it's more like a metaphorical guide, really.
Okay, so not a literal playbook. Got it. But it outlines the steps to becoming a difference maker.
Exactly. And they've made it so easy to jump in. They've got this tiered system on Patreon.
Patreon, like the membership platform.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
the one. And it's super accessible. We're talking like ridiculously affordable. It starts at just $1 a month.
Seriously.
$1.
$1.
That's like less than a cup of coffee these days. What do you even get at that level?
Think of it as dipping your toes into the difference maker waters.
I like that.
You get articles, inspiring stories, just some fuel to get your own changemaker gears turning.
Okay, so what about like the next level up?
Right, so for $3 a month.
Coffee money.
Exactly. You unlock the community aspect. Weekly Zoom chats with other difference makers from around the world.
That's cool. It's like a global brainstorming session. Imagine connecting with people who are just as passionate as you are about making a difference.
And bouncing ideas off each other. I like it.
And then, if you want to take it even further, there's the top tier for $5 a month. And that lets you directly influence the movement, contribute ideas, feedback, straight to the wisdom scheme.
So for the price of a fancy latte, you can have a direct line to the folks leading this whole global movement. That's pretty impressive. But I gotta ask, what kind of difference making are we actually talking about here? Are there like concrete examples of projects, things that have come out of this playbook?
That's what I find so compelling. They're not prescriptive about what form these difference maker projects should take. They're all about celebrating both small, local actions and big, ambitious ones.
So like everything's on the table.
Exactly. There's an article we dug up that highlights this group that used the wisdom's framework to clean up a polluted river in their city. Nothing glamorous, but it made a real difference in their community.
That's a great example. It shows that you don't have to solve world hunger to be a difference maker. Sometimes it's about tackling those smaller, hyper-local issues that are right in front of you. Which, reminds me of all those times you're out there picking up trash on our hikes.
Yep.
You're always so passionate about environmentalism.
Oh, somebody's got to do it, right? Every
Yeah.
little bit helps.
Exactly. And that seems to be the message Wisdoms is trying to get across. It's not about waiting for a hero to swoop in and fix everything. It's about empowering those millions of everyday people to take action, however small or grand. But, and maybe I'm being a bit skeptical here, but how do a few Zoom calls and a $3 Patreon membership actually translate into a global movement? It seems like a pretty big leap from a clean river to a world of passionate people making a difference.
That's where I think the Visionary Mayors article is so insightful. They draw this really interesting parallel to Malcolm Gladwell's tipping point concept.
Oh, I love Gladwell. So how does the tipping point idea fit in here?
Well, Gladwell argues that it's not just about the number of people, but the kinds of people who get involved early on.
Okay, so it's not just about quantity, it's about quality.
Exactly. He talks about these key players, mavens, connectors, and salesmen. Mavens are the ones with the knowledge, connectors bring people together, and salesmen have that charisma to inspire action.
And how does that relate to wisdoms?
Well, they seem to be actively cultivating these types of individuals within their network.
So it's not just about casting a wide net, it's about finding those key players who can ignite a movement.
Exactly.
So they're like strategically building a network, not just a bunch of random people, but these mavens, connectors, salesmen.
Exactly. Creating this framework where those people can connect, collaborate, amplify each other's impact.
It's like they're engineering a chain reaction, one
Yeah.
positive action leading to another and another.
And that brings up another really important piece of this whole puzzle. Remember in the manifesto how they emphasize they're looking for people who, and I'm quoting here, know more and do more than we do. They even specifically mention the digital space.
They're not afraid to admit they don't have all the answers.
Exactly. They're actively searching for people with different skills, perspectives, especially anyone who can help them use technology to really scale their impact.
Which makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, look at all those viral campaigns we see popping up online.
Right. Starting small, but then, boom, huge impact.
So could this be like the digital equivalent of a wildfire, spreading not because you're physically near someone, but because of that shared passion, those online connections?
It's definitely a possibility. And if they're successful at finding those key influencers, those mavens, connectors, salesmen that Gladwell talks about,
Their message could reach a whole lot of people.
exactly. It's like planting seeds of change, right?
And the more connections they make.
The more fertile ground for those seeds to grow.
Man, I love how this project is all about action, you know? It's not just about talking about change, it's about giving people the tools and the network to actually do something. And for some people, that journey might start with just a $1 Patreon membership.
Which is pretty amazing when you think about it.
It really is. Okay, so to wrap this whole thing up, it seems like the Wisdom's Difference Makers project is really onto something here.
They've got a solid vision, a practical approach, and they're not afraid to ask for help.
They're tapping into something powerful, that's for sure. That desire to make the world a better place, one small action at a time.
And as the Wisdom's founders put it, and this is another quote from the manifesto, the starting gun has gone.
What will you choose to do now that you hear it too?